Hey folks, welcome to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey, right here on the Dice Tower. Today we're taking a look at sand art. This is a new one from 25th Century Games and designer Kory Jordan. Had to double check that last name before I said it. Anyway, this is in the genre of blank and write games where you're going to be filling up your own sand bottle art. Let's get down to the table and take a look. So here is a 4-player game of sand art set up for you as far as the size of the workbench, how many hands are going to be out there on the workbench, and so forth. Everybody will get their own bottle sheet that's also going to contain their shelves where they're going to store the different kinds of or different colors of sand that they can use in their bottles, and then you're basically ready to go. There are only 3 objective patterns that are used in each game, and there is a rather extensive deck of different kinds of patterns that you can use, but each game only uses 3 of these, so there's a lot of replayability there. There's also a pack that I don't have shown here of promo pattern objectives that you can have and use, but I just wanted to show you what comes in the base game. You also have a first player marker, you have a bunch of color objectives, and then you also have different kinds of point cards here on the ends of the workbench. And once you have all that set up, you're pretty much ready to go. Everybody is going to be able to take their own set of 6 colored pencils that come in the box. And there is also a pencil sharpener. These are almost part of a bygone era. Each round is going to consist of each player taking a turn, and in that turn, you're basically going to be able to take your hand and move it down the workbench in the direction that your thumb is currently pointing in. Now, when you stop at a place, you're going to either stop at the bottom half of the card or the upper half of the card. And generally speaking, both halves of the card have 2 different actions that you can choose from on that turn, but you only get to do one of them, not both. So whenever you see this icon right here, it simply means you can pour sand into your bottle, and you can pour as much of that color as you want and you have available to you over here. This one down here means that you can gain that color and that much of that color into your shelves. This action right here means that you can mix. And so basically this action allows you to mix red and yellow, and it'll give you a certain number of orange. So if you mix 3 red and 3 yellow, you're going to get 3 orange. This over here is a gray pour, which means that if you stop at this action, you can pour any color that you want, but it all has to be of the same color. You also have the shake action right here, which allows you to basically redistribute some of the sand, or not redistribute, but spread some of the sand that's already in your bottle over here, and we'll get to how that works in just a little bit. Now, the 2 cards on the end of the workbench where your hands will start also are a special action that you can take, and basically if you come to the end spots here, you'll be able to take one of these 2 cards, and these will score you extra bonus points. So for example, if I were to take this card at the end of the game, I'm going to be able to place it right here, and if these 3 spots right here match these 3 colors, then it's going to give me 3 extra points, but I can use it on either side, but I cannot do something like this where I turn the card upside down. And so if these 3 spots right here match these 3 colors, I'll get 3 points, or vice versa. Over here, these will have secondary colors in them, not the primary colors, and that's why they're worth more points, but they follow the same idea. Now, the game is going to end when one player completely finishes their bottle of sand art, and the person who does that first takes the first finished card. And once they've done that, everybody else gets to have one more turn. When it comes back to the person who took the first finished card, then the game is over and we tally points. You're going to get points from the pattern objective cards that are down here. You're also going to get points from whomever gains the most of these different colors. You're also going to gain points from your 3-point and 5-point layer cards that you maybe procured during the course of the game. And whoever has the most points after all that tallying is going to be the winner. Now, these are just straight up points. These down here are going to be, for example, the sunrise. For every occurrence of these 3 colors in that specific pattern, you're going to get 13 points for every instance of a sunrise in your bottle at the end of the game. This one is going to give you 7 points for every time this pattern shows up if you're using primary colors. And it's going to give you 13 points for every time this pattern shows up if you use secondary colors. And then this one's going to give you 22 points for every instance of that tiger pattern that shows up in your bottle. Now, how do you go about getting those different colors and pouring them into your thing? Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. It's really simple. On your turn, you're basically going to be able to take your hand and move it as far along the workbench as you possibly want to, and you're able to stop. And once you stop somewhere, you're going to turn your hand over so that on your next turn, you're going to head back the other direction. But if I stop here, again, as I said earlier, I can stop down here or up here, and I'll be able to either fill or gain 5 red, or I can pour as much red as I want to out of those that I've already accumulated. If I stop up here, I'll be able to mix to make orange. I can mix red and yellow to make orange. And again, how much of each that I mix determines how much orange I get. Or I can pour orange that I've already accumulated on my shelves. Now, once it becomes my turn and I want to go somewhere where somebody else is, too bad. You can't go to an area of the workbench that's already occupied by somebody else. Now, if somebody's on the bottom part of the card, you can go to the top part of the card, but you can't go to the same section of the card as they are. So let's say that I really wanted red, but I can't get it. I'm going to basically go here and take yellow, and then maybe I'll be able to go back and get the red after the red hand leaves. Now, when you're filling in the spots for the shelves here of where you're going to store the different kinds of color that you can use in your bottle, the first thing you'll do when you take it, you'll just put a diagonal tick mark on one of the boxes there. And then when you come back and you start using that, you just put another mark there to make an X, noting that you have used that box. Consequently, the number of boxes that are on each shelf is the restricted number of parts of sand that you can have in that color. So if you gain as much sand as there are boxes on any shelf, you can never get more of that color. So I've never seen that happen, but the rule book states it, so we'll go ahead and do that. Now, when you're filling in spots using one of the pour actions here, you're going to basically see how many dots are there, and that's going to tell you how many squares of your color you have to use to fill in that area. So if I want to fill in this area right here and this area right here, I have to use 1, 2, 3 spots. Now, places that don't have a dot in them can be filled in for free, but they have to be used the same. They have to use the same color as what's next to them when it's being filled in. So for example, if I wanted to, I could use just one of whatever box that I'm using here, and I can fill in this entire bottom area here and these 2 little spots right here that don't have a dot. But if I wanted to fill in these areas over here, I would have to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would be able to fill in all of these areas with just 5 of one color. Now, as you're filling things in, you do have to pay attention to gravity and how gravity works, because you're pouring sand into a bottle, it's going to settle. It's not going to leave any overhangs. So if I wanted to, I couldn't fill in this area right here and this area right here without filling in these 2 areas as well. Additionally, if I had this area filled in and I didn't fill in this area, I would not be able to fill in this area right here because gravity would happen. So I would probably have to either fill in this area with this color when I did it, or fill in this area with this color whenever I did that. But you have to pay attention to how gravity would actually take effect on the sand as you're filling in your bottle. So do take that into account. So the actions that I haven't mentioned here yet so far are these two, and they are fill actions, but they give you a little bit more diversity of what you can choose. This one allows you to fill 2 or less of either purple, green, or orange. Not of each of them, just one or the other. This one allows you to do 4 or fewer of the primary colors, yellow, red, or blue, but not any of them. These two allow you to do 3 red and 3 blue, 3 red and 3 yellow, 3 blue and 3 yellow, respectively. But these are up to and including 4 or 2, but only of one of the colors that are mentioned. The shake action here allows you to take sand that is already in your bottle and spread it up to 2 areas more, again making sure that you're obeying the gravity rule. So for example, if I had this area right here filled in with green, I could take a shake action and take that green and fill it in over here in both of these 2 areas, because that is only an amount of 2 extra. So that's what a shake action does. It allows you to take sand that's in your bottle and fill in up to 2 dots more, obeying the gravity rule. And then finally, once you have filled up your bottles to this specific line or this specific line all the way over to the other side, you're going to unlock special abilities that you'll be able to do during the course of the game. This one allows you to move up or down instead of having to move side to side when it becomes your turn. So for example, if I were here and I had this ability, I could move up here and flip my hand around rather than having to travel back this way, flip around, and then travel back. So that's what the move up or down special ability does. This one just allows you to, whenever you take a gain action, you will gain +1 of whatever color it is that you're gaining. This one allows you to move your hand an additional time on your turn and take a second action. So for example, I could, if I had this one, I could go here and get, let's just say 2 green, and then I could come over here and use some red and blue and make purple. All on one action if I have this one unlocked by filling my bottle up this high. This one allows me to, if I have it filled up to this line, allows me to move here, and then I can keep my hand facing that direction without having to turn it over. But on my second one, I have to turn it around and come back this way. So it allows you to move twice in one direction before you have to flip over and move back. So that's about that for sand art. I have to say that while I'm not a huge fan of these blank and write games, I have to say that there are a lot of them that are coming out right now, and there is a lot of variety in the kinds of blank and write games that are out there. I mean, the name of the genre kind of alludes to that, right? It's no longer roll and write or flip and write or pick and write or whatever it is. It's now blank and write, because there's so many different ways that we can blank and then write on a sheet of paper. So I do like the fact that there is a lot of variety in this. With that having been said, this is one of those that's a little bit on the more crunchier side of these kinds of games. It used to be that roll and writes or flip and writes or whatever were super light games. And I'm not saying that this is incredibly complex, but it is more complex than what you would probably expect to find in a blank and write game, because there are a good variety of actions that you can take, and how you get those done with the restrictions of not being able to go with where somebody else is, and you have to have this in order to do that. There is a little bit more complexity there than what you would find in your normal fare in this genre. So I do like that as well. I think that's a cool thing flipping rights, rolling rights, blanking rights, whatever it might be, they don't have to be easy. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. I do think that some of the easier ones are more forgettable, but some of the more complex ones, people might just say, I'd rather not, with having to do all of this on pencil and paper or what have you. So I guess there's pros and cons to all of that. But speaking of pros and cons, let's get to them. So my first pro is going to be that it is a simple game as far as how it is played, and that simplicity hides a fair amount of complexity. And that complexity really comes out in how you chain together the different actions that you're able to carry out. What I'm saying here is that this seems like a much simpler game than it really is. And that has been a pro in a number of different times, because some of the people that have played this, who normally don't like roll-and rights or blank-and rights, whatever you want to call them, they did like this one. As a matter of fact, they said that it was their favorite of this kind of game. And I think that's just because there was more for them to think about. There was more for them to apply their strategy towards, their tactics towards, than your regular fare for the genre. So for me, I think that's a pro. For it to bridge that kind of gap that exists between one kind of player and another, I like that when games do it, because that means that we can get it to the table more. So I think the simplicity hides a level of complexity that people weren't expecting, and it was a refreshing thing. My second pro is going to be the component quality. Now, I'm going to give, this is going to be about 98% of the component quality, maybe 90% of the component quality I'm going to give as a pro. We'll talk about the other ones later. But generally speaking, look at this huge thick of paper. I mean, they gave you a lot of stuff, and it's here. And I imagine somebody's going to go ahead and take and like plastic one of these things up and give you a whole bunch of dry erase markers. That might work. But for what it is and for what it comes with, they give you a ton of playability as far as that's concerned. The cards are what I would expect from a card game in which you don't handle the cards a lot. And you absolutely don't handle the cards a lot in this game. You basically shuffle the workbench cards once, and you don't touch them for the rest of the game, except for when you put your wooden hand down there. You're not touching them with your hands very much. The objective cards, the same thing. You shuffle them at the beginning of the game. You deal out 3, and the layer cards are the ones that you handle the most. And even then, you don't handle those very often either. The card stock is good enough for what it is. And I think that's a good thing, because you don't want to have really, really, really nice cards if you're never going to have to worry about them degrading, because that just ups the cost of the game, right? So in my opinion, I think that's a pro. I liked these little wood hand pieces that you move around. They're chonky enough to where you don't really have to dig into any of the cards that they're sitting onto. You can just pick them up using the object itself rather than having to provide resistance somehow. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's necessary. It's thoughtful for them to put a pencil sharpener in there, because who has pencil sharpeners in their home anymore, right? My third pro is going to be gameplay. It's not difficult. Turns are really fast. There's not a whole lot of downtime. There's really not even a whole lot of analysis paralysis that could be had here, because it's pretty straightforward. You either need this or you don't need it. You either need to get it now, or you can wait to get it until later. So there's just, it's simple, fast gameplay, and I like it when games do it, because it keeps the game moving, and I enjoy that. My final pro for the game is going to be the theme. Quite frankly, this is not a theme that I've seen before, and if I have seen it, I've forgotten about it, and it hasn't been done a whole lot, so it's not a very prolific theme. So it's cool. I didn't know that I wanted a game about sand bottle art until I saw this. And I thought, that's unique. I want that. So it's one of those things that the theme is unique enough to where I think people will want to own that just so that they can say at some point, yeah, I have a board game that we could play that's about making sand bottle art. Seems like it would be a really niche thing to happen, but it could. My only con for the game is quite simply these things right here. Now, I think it's cool that they added colored pencils to the game. But these are not the best colored pencils in the world. They will break frequently. You'll notice here, let me put it right here. You'll notice that some of them might break more often than others, which means they have to get sharpened more than others. I've used all of these the same number of times, and yeah, that blue one has taken a beating. So it's kind of a weak con, I guess, and it's one that's easily remedied. You can just go down and get yourself a good set of colored pencils from your local art supply store and replace them, and you're good to go. I'm probably going to not buy colored pencils and just buy colored markers instead. I think markers would have been a much better choice, probably more expensive, which is why they didn't do it. But I'm probably going to replace these with markers instead, because you don't have to erase anything, and that will remove the need for this right here. Now, as far as a rating is concerned, I think I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually, but it did have that one moniker. I really was disappointed with these pencils. Really disappointed with these pencils. When I first saw them, I was like, wow, that's cool. They gave us our own color pencils. And then we started playing in our first game, and it was like, crack. Oh, I got to sharpen it again. Oh, crack. Oh, I got to sharpen it again. Crack. Oh, no. These pencils suck. And that really kind of hurt it a lot. I think if this had come with markers, it would have been a lot better. I could have probably even seen myself giving this an 8. That's how much I really enjoyed it. But as is, it's only a 7 because these pencils really were a hard factor for me to overcome as we play the game, because it just adds more time to having to sharpen pencils when it could have just been markers. Now, I know markers dry out as well, but I just think overall it would have been a better choice, albeit a more expensive choice, but I get it. As it is, though, I do enjoy the game a lot, and everybody that I've played it with, except for a couple, not everybody, there have been a couple people who just didn't want to play it anymore. And I get that. That's how it's always going to be. But for me personally, I did really enjoy the game. I know that there are a lot of people that enjoy a little bit more difficult games that also really enjoyed it, and it provides a good bridge for those who want a simple game with not a whole lot of choices, and those that want a more difficult game with more choices, and it meets right there in the middle, and that's what I liked about it. So a 7 out of 10. Thanks for joining me. We certainly appreciate you taking time to be here. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.